Hey, everybody, welcome to Pink Shade. It's Monday. It's Mugshot Monday. Now, as a reminder, next Monday will be 90 Day Fiance. Okay.
Mhm.
And Tuesday will be Keisha and I covering the Virgins. The Virgins starts next week on Monday. So you will get our recap on Tuesday, which means 90 Day gets pushed to Monday. So just everybody, just follow the Instagram. It'll be there. Subscribe to the newsletter. You can click the link below if you're confused. But this week will still be Mugshot Monday, TLC Tuesday, but next week will be 90 Day will be on Monday, and then Keisha and I will be on Tuesday covering the Virgins. It'll still be TLC Tuesday, just a different show. Okay.
She's mostly talking to me, you guys, because I totally had to text her the other day. I was like, so what's the plan for this week again? Because I totally forgot. Not that she had not explained it to me thoroughly.
Yes.
I just kind of was like, oh, okay, got it. And just forgot.
It's a little confusing even to me. And when you sent me that text, I was like, let me think about it. But yeah, so today we're going to cover this Sherri Papini documentary that was on the ID channel. I watched it on Max. It's 4 parts, about 4 hours, give or take.
Mhm.
And you and I both, because we are slackers, watched it yesterday. Like we waited to the
We
last
did.
minute. Yeah.
Mhm.
So last night, Anna and I were watching it, and she didn't know the story. And like halfway through, I'm like, by the way, she faked all this. She's like, well, way to ruin it for me.
Wait, she
Yeah.
hadn't figured out halfway through that she was totally faking?
And I didn't know the story at all.
Oh, okay.
She was like, so it's not worth it for me to go watch that other documentary. I said, no, because the husband comes
No.
across weird too.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I was fully expecting, because I didn't hear any recaps or anything. I know other people talked
Mhm.
about it. I stayed away from it to specifically just wait to make an opinion myself. And I really, really was expecting to watch this and be like, oh my God, she's a sociopathic liar. But now I'm not so
And
sure.
I think she's a crazy person.
Okay.
I think she's scary.
Okay. hmm
I think she is a master manipulator.
Okay.
And here's the thing, I went into this saying, I'm going to forget everything that I've
hmm
heard, I've read, I've seen,
hmm
because sometimes I really want to be on the woman's side just because I'm a woman. You know what I mean? Like,
Agreed. Yes.
let me give her a chance, Mm-mm, no. Mm-mm,
I had
mm-mm.
a different thought, Keisha. As we got more into it, I was like, well,
Mm-mm.
it could have happened the way she's saying. Um, but it also could happen the way the FBI said it happened.
I'm just gonna go with the professionals on this one.
Okay, well, I'll be very interested to get feedback. So everybody,
Mhm.
you can DM me or Keisha, Pink Shade Pod, or the Libra Lounge with Keisha. You can send me an email, MP at Pink Shade Podcast, whatever you want to do.com. Just whatever.
Mhm.
Let us know what you think, because and if you're listening on Prime, under Patreon, you can make comments as well because it's ad free over there. So just let us know, because like I said, I didn't listen to any other recaps or really read any articles or anything about it, because I really wanted, just like you're saying, I wanted to go in just fresh brain.
Right.
And now, honestly, I sort of lean towards your thought, but I'm
Mhm.
like, maybe, maybe,
There was like a slight moment,
yeah,
not even a full minute. I'll give her 38 seconds.
okay,
I was like, maybe she's telling the truth.
yeah.
And
And
then I
so
was like, no.
were you watching with James, or were you watching by yourself?
He came in for like 30 minutes and fell asleep. So I watched it by myself.
Okay, so I was watching with Anna, and I think because I had a second person sitting there, kind of going, well, obviously, she's telling the truth now, and she was scared of this guy and all this. I go, then
Mhm.
how come he's never been charged with anything
For
ever,
anything,
ever?
not one thing. And then the end with her parents, that really sealed the deal for me with what they said.
Yeah.
So,
All right, well, let's go through it. I've got tons and tons of notes. And first of all, I want to say that in my mind, the hero of the whole situation was who we meet first in part 1, which is called Exodus, which is what was on her back, Denise
mhm.
Farmer.
Oh
Okay.
God, yeah.
The lead
Yes.
the lead investigator for the FBI on this case. Now, as the case went on, the years went on, she got promoted and moved somewhere else, but she was always
Right.
really interested. She's now retired. Now, I would like to ask friend of the pod, Jodine Weber, her thought on this FBI investigator commenting, because she usually has opinions with FBI investigators going on. And Denise seemed to be real happy to be on camera.
Oh, I think everyone was exceptionally happy to be on camera.
Yeah.
From her attorney, from the sister-in-law, everyone is like, this may be our last chance. Let's not fuck this up. We could get a reality TV show out of this deal. Like, we can become an influencer or what. There were some happy people. Like, they were really happy about doing this.
Yeah.
Especially her.
So we meet Denise Farmer. I liked her a lot. She reminded me of my Aunt Mary Lou. She looked like her a little bit. Lead investigator for the FBI on this case originally. Then we have Sherri's parents, Richard and Loretta. And then we have the sister-in-law, Suzanne, just inexplicably in a turban, just no reason given.
That's her thing.
Yeah, because Anna was like, "Oh, I like her tattoos, and I kind of like
Me
her
too.
vibe in her house."
Me
and
too.
And then Anna tries to go into, "Oh, she's using white sage, and that's controversial." I was like, "Shh, you're focusing on the wrong things. Quit talking." We had the podcaster. Her name was Abby. I did not catch what podcast she had. I apologize, Abby, fellow podcaster. We see each other. And then we have the husband, Keith. Now, Keith does not appear because he had his own documentary that was on Hulu, where he said some pretty fucked up shit about her. Basically, she had Munchausen by proxy and all these things. Now, I don't think
he is an odd duck himself.
Yeah.
He's no saint. However, I don't believe all the things that she said about him. I think some of the things kind of track. I'm like, okay, I can see that, because this guy is, I don't even know what word to use to describe him other than he's just odd. And I think he probably was a dick.
He seems like a dick. Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's sort of like in the Natalia Grace thing. It's like the whole situation is so weird, but then you bring in the adoptive dad and you're like, whoa.
Yep.
Yeah, it's sort of like that. Like, okay, now we don't know who to root for because that guy's so weird. So
very much so.
So Denise says in the initial investigation, the way the phone was placed and dropped with the hair specifically wound around the headphone was a red flag to her. And as they start to interview people while Sherri was missing, many friends said she did this all the time. She would Sherri would disappear and come back.
Okay? Which to me, I'm like, how do you do that? And you have 2 small children at home. How do you just like, what in your head says, I'm just going to disappear. I'm not going to tell anyone where I'm going. I'm just going to be gone.
But were these friends from high school and stuff? Because what we got in the other documentary, if I'm remembering correctly, her high school and college friends were like, oh, she's just a total compulsive liar. Like you huge stories that you find out never happened.
I believe that.
So I think this kind of falls into the realm of would disappear and come back. I don't know if that's in her marriage or she definitely was having lots and lots of more than one texting affairs, but never physical, just texting. So just for the attention, it seems. So Denise says, the FBI agent says, this is a person who wanted to embellish to get attention. And it seems that Sherri has said every boyfriend, every person in her life has abused her. She's got these lengthy stories of every boyfriend, every person she's ever had in her life abusing her. And that's also a red flag.
I think so too, because it's like, okay, how is it that every single guy you've ever dated has abused you in some sort of way?
Right.
Part of me wants to believe that, but to me, I'm like, that's pretty damn fishy that you're always the victim in every situation that you're in.
Right.
Like, that cannot be. I can see 1 or 2 boyfriends, but not every single.
It's the girl who cried wolf. It's like, okay, enough times we're going to find out you're lying that when it really does happen to you, we're not going to believe you.
Yeah.
You know?
And this could have been the case where something did happen, but no one believes her, but it didn't happen to me.
Yeah. And so she also had a bunch of men in her phone under female
Uh-huh,
names. And emotionally,
uh-huh,
she stepped out on Keith a lot. And early on in the
mhm.
marriage, before they even had kids, he found out she was texting with guys. And they did a post nup saying if she continued to do this and he found she was having an affair, she would get nothing. She would get no custody.
Yeah.
California is a 50-50 state. And she signed it. She agreed, I won't do it anymore. So she knew the stakes if she was found emotionally cheating again was she's not going to get 50-50 of the assets. And there it
Mhm.
had been a while since she worked. So, so so people started thinking on the internet, we see a lot of like Twitter and stuff like this shit is fake. Who was
Right.
this girl? Blah, blah, blah. While she
Right.
was gone. This is a gone girl. Um,
Mhm.
and they started thinking it was a fake kidnapping. We see Keith on TV crying, saying, I just want her to come back. There's a $50,000 reward. So
I always feel sorry for the husbands whenever their wife is missing because they are so tightly scrutinized whenever they're doing these interviews. It's either
yeah,
he did too many interviews, he didn't do enough
yeah,
interviews, he didn't cry this time, he cried too much. You and to be honest, when I was watching him, I was watching him through those eyes. I'm kind of like, is he faking? Is
right.
that a fake cry?
Always.
Is that a real cry? It just, which is totally unfair because we always assume that the husband, automatically, we think the husband has something to do with it.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. It reminds me of the Elizabeth Smart case when she was kidnapped out of
Mhm.
her home, and people are immediately like, "Oh, definitely it was the parents."
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's what we
So
think,
because you're like
just
the dad is weird. He seems like he's gay, so
mhm.
he must have kidnapped his daughter, huh?
And that
So,
makes no sense at
no
all.
sense. Um, so we see Keith crying on TV, talking about the reward, and Denise says, "Look, here's the thing. As an FBI agent, of course, he was an ally to us. He was helping us, but he also was getting in the way. Like,
Mhm.
seemed like he wanted to be on TV a lot or something."
Mhm. I think
And
he's an attention whore as well.
I do too. And
Mm,
wanted everything to seem perfect. And yeah.
yes.
And Suzanne, the sister in law, who is Keith's sister, says,
Mhm.
look, he and Sherri both had this mindset of we have to appear perfect family,
Mhm.
perfect wife, perfect marriage. And he really wanted this idea of a perfect wife. And, she goes, like, I'm not talking bad about either of them, but they both sort of fed into it.
And I can believe that
Yeah.
100%.
So 22 days after her abduction, she was returned,
Mhm.
bruised, chain on her waist, branded. Okay. She says 2 Hispanic female adults were her kidnappers. And we see this exchange of her being interviewed. It looks like maybe in her house, or I think
Mhm.
maybe they went to like a mountain house or something so she would get away, if I recall
Okay.
correctly. Because I remember thinking there are a lot of leather chairs in this house.
There
But
were.
I think it was they went to like a mountain retreat for her to recover, and then the investigators came there, if
Okay.
I'm remembering correctly. She describes these 2 Hispanic female adults, okay, which is females generally are not kidnappers,
No.
but she's trying
No.
to indicate that there's these like 2 Hispanic Mexican lesbians took her.
Mhm. And I
And
didn't
this
like that at all.
I didn't like it either. And listen, it always is like it's either like the black man or like the Mexican.
Yes.
And you're
And
like,
I hate that because it's like people who already have like a scarlet letter on them for crimes, and
yeah,
now you're pointing towards them like they've done this horrific crime to this very petite, cute, small, white
blonde
woman.
lady, white lady.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it infuriates me so bad. And usually, you're right. Females don't kidnap females or anyone unless it's a child.
Mm,
Usually, that's when women kidnap. Maybe they're an accomplice, but they never just kind of traditionally set out and kidnap a whole woman.
yeah. Agree. Agree.
Yeah.
So that's concerning too.
Mhm.
And she was very flirty with the investigators, like very
Girl.
like, I know. What if I just close my eyes? What if I do this? And then like I'm so crazy. Like I had told my husband, come home and meet me for lunch. Like so embarrassing. I wanted him to come home and have sex with me. And I mean,
That was
just
horrible. That was cringy.
just the whole time she's talking, her husband's just looking at his phone. Like,
Yeah,
it's like, yeah.
I was like, okay, this is insane. But on the flip side, I've never been kidnapped. So I don't know how you act whenever
Right.
are returned home.
Yeah.
But I don't even know if I would be able to sit there like that and be able to talk. I think I would be so traumatized. Because I got emotional because in my head, I think about what if that were me and I got kidnapped. I would be just so wound up, just tears, 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 tears. And she's like cracking jokes and talking about sex. And
she's very clear-headed. She's not
yeah,
showing lingering signs of like, I find this very hard to talk about or
yes.
shut down. But
And that's
again,
how I feel I would be.
we do find out later she has several different, personality disorders that could lead to this masking. So, and the branding on her back, Exodus with the numbers. So Denise says, okay, so there are these like cults and things and there are different gangs and things that will brand you. So let me look up this particular passage, Exodus, whatever. She goes, literally, it's about the frogs being in the earth
Right.
and then returning to the sky and raining down the frogs. She goes, so that makes no sense
at all.
She goes, my gut is telling me immediately this is a hoax. I don't believe her.
It's like she opened up the Bible, just went, close her eyes, went, this one.
Yeah.
That's what I'll use. You know what I mean?
There's so many weird things in the Bible that you could put that would make people go down a rabbit hole of it means this, it means that. But when she was just like, nobody's going to look it up. So Denise says, Sherri Papini did not count on DNA and she did not count on the FBI. So 4 years after her return, so 4 years she's lived like as this victim. The DNA found on her underwear was identified. It's a guy named James. We never get James's last name. James. I'm sure somebody out there knows it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Denise says, at this time, 4 years later, I had been promoted and moved to another state, but I knew everything about the case, even though it was 4 years later. So I really wanted them to, bring me in or whatever. So we hear and see some footage of the FBI going to James's apartment and talking to him. We never see him.
No.
Because he's never been charged with anything. He's not a part of this, really.
Right.
So after an hour of questions of him being like, yeah, I hadn't talked to her since high school. Like, I don't even, he goes, okay.
And they knew he was lying.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, you guys, the FBI does not ask questions if they don't know the answer. Okay. Just always remember that if they come to your door.
Right. Don't ever come to my door, please.
Jen McCabe could have remembered that in the Karen Reed trial because they came to her door and she said, I just need 10 minutes really quick to change clothes. And they said, okay. So 10 minutes later, they come back in. They said, did you call anybody while you were changing clothes? And she goes, oh, I just called my husband. No, she made 11 calls in 10 minutes.
Oh,
so by the way, they knew that because they had tapped her phone.
Yep.
So don't ever lie to the FBI, guys. They already know the answer. So this is just word to the wise. So
just in case.
Just in case. So after an hour of questions, he goes, okay, look, here's the thing. I didn't kidnap her, but we planned it together. She was trying to get away from her husband. So I helped her by picking her up. She asked me to do all these things, board the room up. She was going to lose all this weight. She asked me to brand her. In the first documentary, he fully explained how she would like run and hurl herself at a coffee table to get these bruises and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I would have had time or made time to
go back and look at it. Yeah.
Because I do remember him explaining in detail how she made the bruises. So,
it's the starving part that I would have failed at.
Oh, me too.
I would have been able to do all the bruises, brand me, all that, but I'm like, I'm gonna be the same weight whenever I am found. Like she was, really skinny. Like I don't know how she had that commitment to starve.
Me either. I don't either. Man. So 3 days after meeting with James, FBI meets again with Sherri and Keith. They call her into their office. And again, they're asking questions that they already know the answer to.
Right.
So we see Veronica Allegria, I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, assistant U.S. district attorney. She's the lead prosecutor on this case. Okay. So we got Denise, the FBI. We got Veronica, lead prosecutor. And 5 years later, 5 years from the original thing, Sherri was arrested for faking her own abduction.
Yeah. She thought she had gotten away with this. Like, this is it. It's been 5 years. It's done. It's over. No one's going to be talking about this anymore. I'm completely and totally free to live my life.
Yep. So part 2, we go into I'm a liar. Okay. That's the name of this episode. Okay. Exodus and now I'm a liar. So She opens with staring at the camera. Haven't you ever lied? Hasn't anybody ever lied? I'm looking at all of you cameramen in production. You've all lied. Everybody
Huh.
here has lied.
Yeah, and
True.
she's correct. We
True.
just don't lie about getting kidnapped.
And abused and beaten and branded.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so there we meet this author whose name I'm completely going to butcher, but it's Dr.
Okay.
Romani Dursavala, I think. And she
Sounds
said,
good to me.
yeah, she says, I'm just going to talk about human behavior. I've never met Sherri Papini. I haven't even studied her case. I can only talk about my experience as this psychologist and
Mm-hmm.
author. I can only discuss human behavior regarding this case.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I like when they flat out say, like, I don't know this person.
Yes.
They don't want to get their
Mm-hmm.
license taken away. So Suzanne, her sister-in-law, is saging in her turban, and she goes, it's hard for me because I love all the people involved. And I was like, huh.
Do you really love your brother? Because it kind of seems like you don't.
But also your brother is weird too. So I get it.
Very, very, and their dynamics, because they're not close at all.
Mm-mm.
And then she takes in
Sherri.
is Sherri. I was like, oh, okay.
So she says, law enforcement acted unprofessionally. And Sherri says, yeah, the statements that the family put out about me, like we love her, we support her, we hope she's
Mm-hmm.
fine, is not true. They were not supporting me. And she says, and things were very different with Keith behind closed doors. And so she gets out on bond or whatever. And Suzanne goes, she has nobody. This girl has nobody. So she can come and live with me. And she says,
Where were the parents? Why did the parents not this time take her in? I know that later on they do, but why did they immediately not take her in? And I got to be honest, the mom seems weird to me as well.
Yep, agreed.
And the dad was looking the whole time like, both these bitches be lying. Like he just had that look about him like, I know I should say this, but I really don't believe any of this.
Yeah. Yeah. So she goes to live with Suzanne, and she goes, you know what? She might be lying, but what I see is a woman who needs love and help and a space to be protected. And we get some home videos of them like lighting candles and dancing around. And
Mm-hmm.
Suzanne and Keith obviously aren't close. And she says, I felt like Sherri was my sibling, not Keith, obviously. All right. So now we meet Sherri's attorney. Okay, just her attorney for this kidnapping. His name is Bill. He's got a handlebar mustache. They have a great shot of him like looking up at the camera. And Bill
The
says,
hair,
look,
Mary Payne.
I mean, the hair
what was it?
It was just
What?
a lot of hair and a lot of mustache.
Okay, because at first I'm like, wow, what a toupee.
Me too.
But then later on, you can see where it was flipped a little bit back. I'm like, maybe that's his hair.
I can't imagine he would make a toupee that big. I mean, true. So Zach from the Valley. So Bill says, Bill says, okay, she lied to the FBI. She did. We have 100 places she lied to the FBI, and she committed mail fraud because she got some sort of restitution for, I don't really understand, for some sort of like victim fund. She got some sort of restitution. The checks were coming in the mail. So she got mail fraud and she was lying to the FBI. So she says, poor little me. It was Sherri Papini versus the federal government. Like, I was terrified because I knew I'd finally have to tell the truth. And I was going to accept the plea because I had lied to the FBI. That is true. And Bill says, well, there's a huge story to be told here. And I don't know if I never got the complete whole story. And if I did, it wouldn't make a difference in the case. I was there to represent, you lied to the FBI.
Yeah.
Let's get the best plea for you we can on these charges, right? He's like, the whole rest of the story doesn't really matter to me, which I like because he's like, I don't need to get into the family drama. I'm specifically focused on these counts. So the producer goes, so you're ready to tell the truth about what happened? And she says, the truth is I was abducted, but not by the Hispanic women, by my ex-boyfriend, James. There was no consent. There was no consent to sexual, behavior. There was no consent to the branding. There was no consent to the abuse. There was no consent to starving me, to the chain around my waist. No consent. It was all him kidnapping and abusing me.
Now, here's something that never, ever came out of her mouth.
Okay.
She never said the words, "He raped me."
No, she didn't say that.
But we know that sexual activity took place because that's how they got his DNA
In her underwear.
in her
Mhm,
underwear. But she
mhm.
never ever said that he raped her. And I found that highly suspicious. Like,
Hmm. You're right.
he
She didn't
me,
say
he
the
beat me
words.
up, he starved me, he held me captive, but he didn't rape me.
She does later talk about, he her pain gave him sexual pleasure,
Mhm.
and then she just wanted to make sure he was having ejaculation outside of her body so she wouldn't get
Mhm.
pregnant, was another thing she was saying.
But
But that
never said raped.
right. Okay. Okay. So she says, I lied about James's identity for several reasons. Number one, I was in danger and scared of him. And number two, I couldn't tell my husband I had started off having this emotional affair with him because of the post-nup.
Mhm.
So I was in danger. I was scared of him. And so I didn't want to say who he was for fear he would come after me. And I
Mhm.
couldn't tell my husband, I couldn't let him know that I had had an emotional affair with him before. She says, I never physically cheated on my husband ever. It was only emotional intimacy that I was craving with these other men. Mom and dad come on
Mhm.
the screen and they're like, we never liked James. When they dated
Yeah.
in high school, we never liked him. Well, they don't like Keith either, by the way.
Yeah, because they go along with the bullshit that their daughter says everyone is horrible, poor me, poor me, poor me.
Yep. So they just
But
agree. Yeah, right.
they
Right.
disagree with it, you know. And it seems like to me that at some point they were like, some of this is bullshit,
Hmm. Yeah.
you know.
So Sherry says, listen, when we dated when we were younger, now this was interesting too. She says,
Mhm.
our relationship didn't last long and we didn't line up sexually. We realized we had different proclivities.
Okay, you're literally like a freshman in high school.
Yeah, I
What
was
do
like,
you even know about any of that?
I was like, that's a weird thing to say about a high school boyfriend. Listen,
Yeah,
people have sex in high school, okay? But
yeah.
for her to say the reason we broke up was because we didn't align sexually,
Hmm.
that's a strange thing to throw in there where you could be like, it was a high school relationship. It comes and goes. We broke up. You know, we made out a few times. We maybe had sex, but he was
Yeah,
my high school boyfriend. I hadn't talked to him in years. That's it. It's
yeah,
a high school relationship that didn't work out. Anybody can understand
yeah.
that. But she made it sound like these were people that are in their 30s and he was into some weird shit. And she was like, I'm not going to do that. So,
Yeah, and to me, I took it as like you're in high school. People in high school having sex, they don't know what the fuck they're doing anyway.
right. So,
You
what do
know.
you,
So what are
yeah.
you talking about?
So then why did you pick up an emotional affair with him?
Years later.
Know if he's got
Hmm.
some weird sexual kink that you're never gonna do.
Hmm.
So, she said Sherry says, "I loved Keith." Um, no, I loved Keith. He'd been my 7th grade boyfriend is what she says.
Like
So
they
she did
they kiss for the first time or
in
something like
7th
that in
grade.
seventh grade. Yeah,
So that means Keith probably also knows James because they all went to high school together,
I didn't even
right?
think about that.
Yeah. And she goes, and just because a relationship looks glossy on the outside and they show a bunch of pictures and stuff doesn't mean it's wonderful. She talks about
Hmm.
the post-nup and why he did that and stuff. And if he ever caught her talking to another man, she'd get nothing. Now, when they keep showing these pictures of Sherry and Keith,
Hmm.
I said to Anna, as I do, I go, boy, she had a lot of gums in
She
those teeth.
did. Yeah, she does most
Now she's
definitely.
had Invisalign. Her teeth are very straight now.
Hmm.
And good for her, who cares? Anybody should
Right.
fix their teeth that want to, but she's also obviously had what you can get to fix it, which is you can get Botox all up in there, and it'll lower your smile so that the lip doesn't go so high.
What?
Yeah, if you notice people on TV that have super gummy smiles,
Yeah.
like Katie Couric is this is the way I ever knew about this because Katie Couric talked about it,
Okay.
that she always had a gummy smile, and she was really, like, embarrassed of it or
Hmm.
aware of it. She's on TV every
Right.
day. And she said, and then I found out you could get Botox up in there and it'll fix your gummy smile. So I started doing that. You still have it, but it's not as bad.
The things I learned recording with you.
I tell you what,
I
man.
ain't never heard of no shit like that.
Yeah, because she doesn't have that gummy smile anymore because she does like make a lot of jokes and smiles a lot, and it's not there, and her teeth are all straight now. Maybe straightening her teeth helped it too. I don't know, but if anybody's
Wow.
ever listened to this podcast one time, you know I'm obsessed with teeth and dental
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right, so they had the kids. So the emotional affair happened. They got the post up. Then they had
Mhm.
kids, and she got laid off from her job with AT&T, and she goes, and then the more I just stayed home with the kids and he made all the money, my social circles shrank. He was controlling
Mhm.
me. Where was I? At what time? When was I going to be home? Listen, that all could be very true. He does seem like a
Yes.
weirdo.
Yep.
Um, and she says, and James and I somehow reconnected. And I was texting him, and it was all about having somebody to connect to that would like have
Mhm.
empathy for me. She needs the male attention. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said the male attention because she was not seeking female attention or sisterhood or anything like that. It
No.
always has to be a man
And all the women in her life were the ones that were like, "No, she pulled that shit all the time. She was a liar. She would,
because they
yeah,
could peep her game.
yeah, right."
Yeah, and men
So,
are quite gullible.
and the FBI, I don't know which. Oh, this is this new guy, Peter French from the FBI.
I like him a lot.
He says, but God bless. Halfway through, I looked at Anna. I go, nobody could have slapped on some moisturizer, some Aquaphor on the lips on this man. This man was so dry. His face was so dry. His lips were so dry. I go, there's a makeup team there. They could have just given him a little Carmex on the lips, just a
Yeah,
Neutrogena moisturizer,
he
something.
must have said no.
He must have said no, but that man was
Mm, trust
rusty.
me.
So he says, um, she was planning a secret hoax kidnapping, but
Mhm,
just to try to hide this affair, you know?
mhm, mhm.
So he says, Peter French says, I wasn't on the case, but I can speak to it. I've studied it. The burner phones, when someone has a burner phone,
Yep.
that's a big sign they're obviously trying to hide something. He said the
Mhm,
burner phones that she had showed previous contact between her and this ex, James.
mhm.
But at the end of the day, the only two people that actually know what happened are Sherri and James.
That's true.
His story is
Mhm.
so wildly different than hers.
But his is so much more believable than hers.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm going to tell you something. If somebody asks you to kidnap them and do all this, he got to be fucked up in his head to agree to it, to do it. And then after she left, to be like, I could never trust a woman again.
Yeah, so he probably is a little stupid. She's a
Mhm.
master manipulator. So who knows what all she promised this guy?
Right.
Like, if we do this, if we get away with this, I can get this money. We can be together. We can do this. We can have our own kids. Da 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 da. Da. So
Yeah.
she must have been promising him something.
Like
He didn't.
once I get done, I'll get all
Yes,
these victims funds and money, and then I
yes,
can
and
leave
we'll be
keys.
together.
Yes.
Yes, and I
Yes.
think that's what she did because there's no way he just did this so she could get away from her husband.
Yeah, it's an extreme
No,
to yeah.
yeah.
So the producer asked Sherri, "Why did you say 2 Hispanic women?"
Mhm.
And she goes, "I was giving them breadcrumbs. I was leaving breadcrumbs. I wanted the FBI to draw the sketch and realize it's James's mom. James's mom is Hispanic. Those were the breadcrumbs."
And
And
I
the pro
tried to go with her on this. I about 10 seconds of me thought, "Oh, okay, okay, okay."
the producer
10 seconds.
says the producer says, "But what was the logic?" The logic was
Mhm,
James's mom is Hispanic. I'm going to
mhm,
describe one of the women as Hispanic, and I'm going to
mhm.
make it look like his mom. So people will then look up a picture of James's mom from the nose up
Up
and
their
think it
nose
looks
up.
like
Yeah,
her. By the
yeah.
way, show us the pictures. Show us the pictures of James's actual mother.
Mhm, mhm,
So she goes, it was fear. Now we meet Stephen Diggs, her psychologist. Now, once we start with Stephen Diggs, the psychologist, the B-roll shots of her were so nuts of her like head swirling around the head. It's like
mm,
every Instagram or TikTok filter where it's like the face splits and makes a bunch of splits,
yeah.
or her looking in a mirror, then the mirror goes back. At one point, Anna goes, whoever this is wild. They needed
They
to
did
really
it a
fill
lot.
they need to fill the space.
Yeah,
Like you
it
said,
happened a lot.
it could have been 2 parts, not 4.
Yes.
They could have taken out all this, and
Mhm.
her, like, sitting at the lawyer's desk looking wistfully, and it's a black background. You're like,
Yeah.
"What's happening?" Okay,
I'm like, I get you're trying to be theatrical,
it's too
but
much.
this is super amateur.
Super amateur, you're right.
Yeah.
So now we meet Dr. Stephen Giggs, who is her
Mhm.
therapist, and
Mhm.
he, all these people have permission to speak. So he says, "I do believe she was abducted. I do believe she has a personality disorder,
Mhm.
and I think she's, finally broken through this mechanism of lying. I do think with the years of therapy we've had now, she's broken through this mechanism of lying, and she is telling the truth. She's worked really hard on it. She has," and of course, Anna, my daughter, who thinks she's a therapist and is not.
Well, she might be Mary Payne.
She's not, Keisha.
She might
She's
be.
she was waiting. She was like, "What's the personality disorder? Because I could tell you, blah, blah." I was like, she goes, she has self-defeating personality disorder. She works very hard to please people. She gets into non-fulfilling relationships and then creates other relationships to get her needs met on all the different ways she needs it. She needs all this attention. So she gets into a non-fulfilling relationship,
Mhm.
self-defeating, and then creates these other ones to fill the gaps. Okay.
Did he come off a little bit like he liked her more than just as a patient?
No, I know what you're saying. He didn't come
Okay.
across that way to me, but he did come
Okay.
across like, "You can't tell me nothing. I believe every word she says. Like, there
Yes.
is not a world in that I could
Mhm.
see that this was a made up story. He can't see a
Okay.
world where that's true."
And I see that, and I just took it as, does he have like a small, tiny crush on her or something like this? But I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It just
He just
he
can't.
was 10 toes down for her.
Yeah. He just can't see a world in that this is not true.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Diggs says, "I do believe she was abducted and she did not want it. And she did lie her way through it to get out of there alive, as sometimes people do in these situations.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
she lied so she wouldn't lose her kids. And it worked for 5 years. In those 5 years, she did 5 years of EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing.
Mm-hmm.
It works on a lot of people. Dorit did it on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills to get over her
Okay.
PTSD for being, all that happened to her with the robbery. And he
Right.
goes, and it worked. And she's broken through this mechanism of lying.
Hmm.
And she tells us Keith was constantly telling her, "When and if I find out you're lying, I'm going to take the kids. You'll get no money. The post up." Like, he was constantly telling her, "I'm going to ruin you. Your world will be over. You'll have nothing if I find out you're lying about this." So he's
I
saying
mean,
that
and
to her
she
for 5
and he
years.
probably did. I think he probably did do that.
And he had reasons to do it.
He had reasons, and I think he also thought, she is totally lying. I just haven't figured it. I can't prove it yet.
Yeah.
I don't think he believed her at all, and God knows what all she was saying and doing at home behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Because she wants to look innocent, and she keeps saying it's for the kids, but I also think it was because of the money.
So in April of 2022, there's a plea agreement. She didn't want
Hmm.
to sign it, and they went back and forth quite a lot about the language in the plea agreement. And
Hmm.
they put in as many changes as they could because she kept saying, "No, I won't agree to say that." And so
Hmm.
the lawyer finally goes, "They're going to take it away. So you need
Right.
to just agree to what this is, take this minimum amount of prison sentence, and do it." So she said she had to pay $300,000 to the government in restitution
Hmm.
for all the searches and all the money they put out
Right.
towards her search when she had lied. And the assistant DA that we have met says, "I'm not going to talk about the plea negotiations," but she signed an agreement that is the true
Hmm.
story. Okay. And
Mm.
Sherri says, "I knew what I was signing was a lie and I wanted to tell the truth, but we had run out of options on the plea." At that time, she could have told the truth, but she didn't. Okay.
No, she still is sticking. She's still sticking to her lie. And look, I had a friend a long time ago who told me, if you lie, you take that lie to the grave. You never admit the truth. You just lie. You keep lying, keep lying. Obviously, that friend talked to Sherri because she's doing the same thing. Like, she's like, I am committed to this lie. I'm
Yeah.
taking it to the grave. Unless another network decides to give me another special and I come up with something else, I'm going to tell the other truth so it can get
Mhm.
more money. I think
Mhm.
she likes money as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Her house is interesting that she lives in that they keep showing her, and I'm like, "How does she have this house? What job does she have? It's a nice house. It's big."
Well,
Interesting.
because we later found out that was her friend's house that she's just staying in.
Oh, I didn't hear her say
She
that.
gets herself together.
Oh, I
It's
did.
like the 4th episode.
Or maybe she's living with her parents. I don't know. I do know she was dating some weird guy, but I think that's over.
Oh.
Um, okay, so the parole officer's notes say it's interesting talking to her because there is no reason for the lie. There was no financial gain. There's no reason for it. So, Dr. Biggs says she has, in addition to self-defeating personality disorder, she has histrionic personality disorder. She makes things up. She exaggerates histrionics. She
Mhm.
exaggerates things and she seeks attention from men by exaggerating these stories to get sympathy. And he
Mhm.
says, I believe it was not a hoax. I believe it was a very specific lie to keep her affair from her husband so she could keep her children. All right.
Okay.
All right. So
However you want to word it, doctor.
Bill, the big haired, big
Mr.
mustache.
French,
No,
Agent French.
no. This is Bill, the lawyer, not Agent French.
Oh, good. Oh, fluff hair,
Okay.
fluff hair.
Fluffy.
Okay. Mhm.
Looks like a walrus. Okay, so Bill the lawyer
He
talks to Keith the
does.
husband and says, "Look, we're going to do this plea deal. You need to get on board with it. You need to be supportive of your wife, but this is what we're doing to get her a lesser sentence." And Bill, when talking to Keith, accidentally told him about the prepaid cell phones she was communicating with James before.
Like, how do you accidentally do that? And you're an attorney.
He just assumed that everything was on the table and Keith knew. He forgot Sherri
Ooh,
is a
I know
liar,
she was big mad.
liar face. So
Mhm.
Suzanne, the sister-in-law, says, okay, Keith comes
Mhm.
over to my house. He's holding these papers in his hands. He's very upset. And
Mhm.
Sherri heard him coming up and like threw the phone under the bed recording. And
Mhm.
Keith goes, look, here's the thing. You're about to go away to prison for 18 months. I need you to sign this document. You need to relinquish the rights to the kids so I
Mhm.
can make all the, things for them while you're gone. And you need to
Mhm.
relinquish the rights to the kids. And by the way, if you don't, because while you're in prison, if I deem it so, you won't be allowed to see the kids. So you should go ahead and sign this. You just,
And so she thought this recording was going to be a big flex for her,
yeah,
like make her look like, oh, he's so abusive. I would have said the same thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
You're going,
I don't see. Yeah, you're going away. Like, I need to be able to do these things. She really thought that recording was going to be this big moment. Like, look how awful who he is. Look how abusive he is to me. Listen to how he threatened me. That wasn't the case at all. Like, it's exactly what I would have done.
yeah, like you need to sign this. And so
Yeah.
she goes, no, I'm, I had to sign the plea agreement, but everything I've said is real. And he goes, okay, cool. You're a master at deception. You have
Mhm.
lied. You have crushed me. You have crushed yourself. You have crushed everyone in your life. And
Mhm.
he says, this is easy and nice for you to sign this. And you have
Yeah.
no idea. You have no idea what's coming your way if you don't sign it.
Mhm.
And so she doesn't sign it. And so she's like, this is him, threatening me. But I think he's got lots of things he's going to pull out of his bag. So
Right.
6 weeks later, she gets a call from Child Protective Services, and it's the whole essential oils thing. Now,
Mhm.
we see him telling the story on the other documentary where he says she tied plastic bags around the children's necks with um, alcohol soaked cotton balls and made them
Mhm.
huff the alcohol
Mhm.
to make them compliant and knock them out. And
Mhm.
she goes, okay. So I imagine she says essential oil. So I'm like, okay, she's in
Mhm.
some kind of MLM bullshit because she didn't have a
Yeah.
job and she's trying to fight. So she would soak, they had sensitive skin, so she couldn't put Vicks vapor rub on them. So
Right.
she would have them sniff essential oils if they were stuffy. And she goes,
Mhm.
and it was loosely tied around their neck. They could remove it. It wasn't like
Mhm.
that.
Right.
And it was unfounded. The file was closed. It was unfounded. No child protective services thing was filed against me. We see his allegations. And she says, so now what he's doing, he's using the kids against me and he's trying to take my kids by, basically making it sounds like she has Munchausen by proxy.
Right. And
Yeah,
I don't think that she does.
I don't either.
No,
I
I
don't
don't
either.
think she does. Yeah.
Okay, so we move on to part 3, multiple truths.
Mhm.
Part 3. June of 2022, Sherri records a call with her kids 5 months before going to prison. This is when she's not allowed to see them. She's only allowed to talk to them on the phone on
Mhm.
Sundays, which does seem fucking extreme.
That's a lot. Yeah. Yeah, that part does hurt. I'm like, "Okay, I do feel bad
I
for
feel bad for
about
her
this
in that
one
sense.
thing."
Yes,
Yeah.
and she's screaming and she's crying dramatically and all this.
Mhm.
She says, "My kids were never taken from me by the court. There was no child protective, nothing. They were taken
Mhm.
from me by Keith, and I was
Mhm.
only allowed phone calls on Sunday," which is rough. That's rough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
November
agree.
of 2022, she starts her sentence. She says, "Of course, I did not blend in prison."
Mhm.
Now we meet Mo de la Mora. Mo de la
Mhm.
Mora is this prison friend. And Mo says, "Yeah, look at her. She was an easy target. Look at me.
Oh, yeah.
When I'm in prison, people are afraid of me, and
Mhm.
I'm like a big menacing, I got a, mohawk and stuff."
Right.
And so we became friends. And she says the Lifetime movie came out about Sherri, and we see some clips from
Mhm.
that. And everybody, in the yard was watching it.
Right.
Everybody came out against her because of the racist angle, because
Of
of
course.
her saying it was these Mexican women. And Mo goes,
Yeah.
"I'm Hispanic, and half the women in prison are Hispanic." So, of course,
Yeah.
nobody liked that. She's this
Yeah.
blondie talking, it seemed racist. So we see her and all her prison friends in the photos.
It was kinda like when Teresa went to prison and she's in
100.
these pictures with these black chicks and shit like that. People, she would not hang out with at all on the outside. Like, she stuck out like a sore thumb, and it almost looked like, "Okay, guys, we're gonna take this picture, but don't get too close to me." Because
The Sherri ones were so similar to the Teresa Giudice ones
Yeah.
because in every picture, Sherri's in the middle and all the
Yeah.
bitches are flanking her like,
Are
"This is
all
our head
around her.
bitch." Same
Yeah.
with Teresa, always in the middle of the
Yep.
picture. Yeah.
Yep.
So that was, entertaining. And then she says, "I met all these women in prison, and these women had profound effects on me as a person, and I'm still friends with them." Well, I'd like to get their take on her.
I
I'd
mean,
like
we
to hear,
only heard from
Mo.
Mo.
Right.
That's it.
So she says, "Before I went to prison, I got a law firm to represent me in my divorce and family court." The characters, the hits keep fucking coming on this show.
Because
These
boys,
characters,
it's a big one. Yeah. I was like, whoa, okay.
we meet Chase and Van, Kenny and Kenny law firm. Chase is the
Uh-huh.
daughter, Van is the dad.
Mm-hmm.
Chase has a lip piercing, crazy, like teased up
Mm-hmm.
blonde hair, huge earrings,
Yeah.
tons of tattoos,
Yeah.
and it's just real animated. And behind her, she's got her 2 Louis Vuitton suitcases. I mean,
Yeah. And
briefcases.
she is desperately and I was jealous about that.
Yeah, me
And
too.
then she desperately looking like, I cannot start this interview until I find my vape. Like,
Hilarious.
stop. I can't, it's on the floor. I think it's on the floor. Okay, I found it. Then she was able to do the interview. I'm
So
like,
funny.
okay, all right.
So, Van, the dad says, "Someday a show will come out about this and show the truth, and people will have egg on their face." Van, you're on the
Okay.
show. This
Yeah.
is the show, Van. You're on it, and it did not show people the truth.
No.
So most people think Sherri is crazy or she's this
Mm-hmm.
horrible person because she left her children. And
Mm-hmm.
Chase, the daughter, says, "So I agree with that. So I got the whole story. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that Sherri just did what she needed to do to get her kids back. She lied to this man to get her kids back." Let me tell you a crazy story.
This should turn the whole thing to be about her.
Chase tells us when she was 18, she went to Mexico when she was like on a yacht.
Mm-hmm.
And she got drugged and assaulted on this yacht. And when she
Mm-hmm.
woke up, she was just going to go upstairs and go on the pier and leave.
Mm-hmm.
But when she woke up, there was ocean all around her. They had
Right.
taken the boat out. And she manipulated these 5 men
Mm-hmm.
the whole time to think everything that was happening to her was okay. So she
Mm-hmm.
didn't end up at the bottom of the ocean and they would take her home.
Okay.
And
I can
understood.
agree with that. I would do the same thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She says, so her manipulating these men to
Mm-hmm.
think, "I'm on board with this, everything is okay," so that she could
Mm-hmm.
save herself, was exactly what Sherri was thinking when she was agreeing with what James was doing her to make him think everything was fine so that she could get back to Keith and get the kids. So that's how, and I was like, all
Oh,
right.
okay. Except
Okay.
for the part you lied about what really happened.
I
All
was
of
like,
that makes perfect sense. Yeah, you want to get home. You want to make it out of this situation alive.
right.
But as soon as I get out, I've got the FBI working this case for me. I've got all these people. I'm about to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Please go arrest this person and put him in prison.
Yes. Right. I did all
Yeah.
that, but now here's the truth. Right. So the divorce happens while she's serving her 18 months, which I think she only served 10. Chase says, bottom line, Keith was an abuser. And because of the post-nup, she knew she would not get half. So she had to concoct this whole story so he would not know she had an affair. That she had zero control of her finances, zero. Once she lost her job, he took over everything. She had no way to get money to get away from him, no access to money at all. And then we see a screen that says Keith's lawyer showed documents saying she did have some access to money.
And she
Some.
also could have gotten a job. Another
She could have
job.
also gone to her parents' house with the kids and
Yeah.
said, he's abusing me. Help me contact the police. She could have
Yeah.
gone to Suzanne. Your brother is abusing me.
Yep. And Suzanne for sure would have believed it.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
listen,
that's like her number one cheerleader.
100% not saying blame the victim, because a lot of times victims
No.
don't tell because they're scared. That we
Yeah.
understand. I just am not convinced that is the case here. I'm just not.
Neither am I. No, I think this guy's a dick. He may be a little bit controlling, but I don't think that she was scared of him the way that she wants us to believe she was afraid of him and what he would do. I mean, you signed the paperwork, when he said, if you do this, because I've caught you doing it already, this is what's going to happen. And you signed it. You could have just not have signed the paperwork.
Yeah.
The post-nup.
Yeah. I mean, this is a
what I'm talking
long
about.
way to go to have him not find out you're
Yeah.
having an affair. So,
yes. Yeah. You think?
yeah. So Chase, the lawyer, says putting those kids on the first docuseries was unconscionable, and all the stuff he said about child abuse is bullshit. It was proven to be bullshit. None of it was in their custody case ever. So if he really thought she was abusing the children, he would have put that in his custody case, but he didn't. He waited till he was on TV to come up with the story. And Van, the dad, says, I can see how the whole town was duped, and towns have long memories. And if they find out all of this, they were duped, they're going to want revenge, meaning revenge on James.
Ooh, yeah.
James doesn't even live there.
Yeah.
So mom and dad back on the couch say, we never knew the things that Sherri was going through in her marriage. Mom and dad seem real checked out. But then in 2023, she moves in with her parents after she served 10 of her 18 months. She says, this is embarrassing. I'm 30 something years old. I'm a mother of 2, but now I had to move back in with my parents.
That's what's embarrassing. That of all the things that are going on, that right there is what has really embarrassed you.
She says, my parents were crucified in the media. It was alleged that they had done some trauma to me to make me behave this way. So they say, the producer is asking the parents, how is your relationship with Sherri now different than, before all this happened, whatever. And they said, well, when Keith was around, when she was married to Keith, she was always hiding her feelings, not telling us things. And he was always trying to keep her apart from us. Now, that's like he's trying to control her, and you can't be around your family, coercive control. This is what happens. But they seem very coached in their answers. The parents do.
And they did. And, I've talked about being a child that was in an abusive household via the step parent.
Yeah.
And some of those things are true. Like, I don't think for a long time, our family knew what was going on. You know what I mean? It's like this big secret. It stays in the house. And then eventually it came out. But when she said them, okay, that really does happen. You hide the abuse. You just, you do for whatever reason. You just don't want people to know.
Yeah.
But then I still think she's lying.
But the parents said they had no idea that he was controlling, other than now they look back at it. He was trying to keep her away from them or whatever. And the mom says, since she's been out of prison. So first they say to the mom, how is your relationship different with Sherri? And the dad looked over and smiled. Go ahead and say it, bitch. Like,
Mhm.
that was weird to me, the way they kinda
It
zoomed in on
was.
he turned to her like, "What are you gonna
Yep.
say?" And she
Yep.
says, "Since she's been out of prison and away from Keith, we have really been able to rekindle our relationship," and she kinda tears up.
Well,
Mom's
here's the thing.
okay,
You know that they did not have a good relationship, and I don't think it had anything to do with Keith.
it was before that.
Yeah, and I think now they're close. Well, because she's living in your fucking house. She needs you. She needs more people on her team. Of
Yeah.
course, now y'all are going to be close.
But also, if she has gone through all this therapy, this EMDR, all this stuff, and
Mhm.
now she is behaving properly and not lying all
Mhm.
the time, and the
Mhm.
histrionic behavior, and
Mhm.
every person ever in her life has ever abused her. Once
Yes.
all that, maybe they feel like they could trust her a little more.
That too.
Um, and the mom says, um, when she was younger, there was some inappropriate sexual behavior, but I don't want to go into details. And we didn't understand it then, but we do
Mhm.
understand it a lot more now. So they're saying something did happen. We don't want to talk about it. It
Mhm.
wasn't them, but they didn't understand at the time because they're old how that could
Mhm.
traumatize her. So they just brushed it under the rug, as many people that
A
age
lot
did.
of people do
Yeah.
it. Yes.
And now too, it's not just then.
Yeah. Mhm.
So Sherry says, early on in my childhood, I was sexually abused, not by my parents. And it led me to wanting to please this person to calm them down so I would get hurt less. If I acted a certain way, maybe they would hurt me less. And my father caught somebody abusing me, and the family just never wanted to talk about it. So the dad
That
caught this situation somehow.
mhm.
So they were very aware of it, and we don't know who it was. We don't know if it was an
Mm-mm.
uncle. They're not going to say. No one's going to
Nope.
say.
Mm-mm.
So Dr. Big says she has a lot of dissociation due to the trauma, and
Mhm.
her painting her childhood as better than it was is part of that self-defeating personality. And the failure of the parents protecting her
Right.
or finding out about it or whatever,
Mhm.
and then brushing it under the rug, the failure of the parents set the stage for her to become this like habitual liar.
Okay.
So the producer says, "Okay, tell me the truth about the day you were abducted."
Mhm.
And she says, "Okay." She says, "I was getting deep into the situation with James, the texting, and I
Mhm.
was ready to cut it off. I had basically she'd gotten all the attention from him, but he was getting more like, 'Let's meet.'" And she didn't want to
Mhm.
do that. She just wanted to keep it on the phone. And he says, "So I just agreed that he could come up and see me and say goodbye."
Okay, that is not what you do with the breakup.
No,
To
he's like
me,
6 hours away. Yeah.
yeah, you can totally break up on the phone. You could throw away your burner phone so he can't contact you.
Right, get a
You
new burner phone,
block him
right.
on everything else. There is zero reasons to meet him. Period. Point blank.
So she says, I told him, "Okay, you can come and meet me to break up, but I'm gonna go, on this run." And now we see the start of what we get a bunch of, which could have been cut into, 4 minutes, and they made it 40.
Yeah.
This her
Mhm.
doing this run reenactment. Her doing her own reenactment also is so fucking wild.
It was. And how did he know where she was?
Right.
This person you said lives 6 hours away.
And she was going off a road onto a dirt path, so how did he find her?
But he was able to just miraculously something he had a vision. I bet she's here.
Uh-huh.
Let me roll up on her and can that
Yeah.
just I can't like that. It's so unbelievable to me. She's a
Yeah.
liar and not even a very good liar.
So as I'm going through my notes and I'm saying it
Mhm.
out loud, some of these things I'm realizing that, and it does say at the end of the documentary, like, you'll change your mind, like, don't base an opinion on episode 3 because here comes episode 4. It says it at the end of the things,
Mhm.
which is interesting. So they said, "Okay, so did you put the phone there on purpose
Mhm.
or was it an accident?" Because she said
Mhm.
both. She said she
Mhm.
accidentally dropped it, and she said she put it there on purpose to
Mhm.
leave it as a
Right.
clue for
A
the
clue.
FBI.
Mhm.
And she says, "The truth is that it fell. I didn't put it there on purpose with my hair perfectly wrapped around it, whatever. The truth is that it just fell out of my hand. And I have no memory of getting in the car. I have no memory of getting in the car."
So you don't know if you were forced in a car,
Right.
if he hit you over the head and
She
put
doesn't
you in
know
the
if she said,
car.
"Good to see you, let me get in the car." She has no
Mhm,
idea. So the Dr. Big says, trauma stories have holes. They always will. Sometimes you'll never get a memory back. The brain protects itself. So it's there, but sometimes you can never get to it. You could get to parts of it, but you can't
mhm.
get to the one part.
Right.
So the producer says, "So you agreed to the reenactments. Do you
Mhm,
think that'll help if we reenact the run?" And she goes, I just can't remember it. I literally can't remember getting in the car. I can't remember getting in the car. She remembers that the iPod fell, but she
mhm,
doesn't remember getting in the car. Doesn't remember if she was pushed, dragged, got in on
mhm.
her own will. She doesn't know.
Right,
And she goes, "I know I have to prove it. I know I have to provide more evidence, but it's just not there."
right.
So the producer asked the therapist, "Do you think if we do this reenactment, that's going to help her remember?" And he goes, "I wouldn't do that as a therapy. I just wouldn't.
Okay.
And it may not happen. It may not trigger a memory. I do not think it's a good therapeutic exercise to have her redo this run. It's going to be immensely triggering for her."
Which I'm sure he probably told her that,
Yeah.
and she
Like,
did it anyway.
yeah. So she records herself in the car saying, "I don't even run anymore. All of this is going to be triggering for me. I don't want to do it." You
Mhm.
could have stepped out of the car and said, "I'll you guys can film me just standing here pretending like I
Right,
ran to this spot, but I'm
right.
not going to actually run to this spot." And
Oh, no.
they have the car that keeps coming by and backing
Yep.
up. And she goes, "You can film me standing here pretending I'm running, but I'm not going to run."
Mhm.
She's in control. So
But she didn't do it.
the therapist says to the production, "This was not her idea. You asked her to do this." And they said, "Right. She's agreed to it."
Yeah.
So the other doctor, Dr. Dervasala, the one whose name I'm
Mhm.
butchering, says people who have histrionic personality style will go along with anything.
Right.
And that is also what a person who has experienced trauma will do. So this is a tough line to toe that they're asking her to do this, knowing that she'll probably just do it, but it's
Mhm.
going to be super upsetting since she's been through this trauma. It could be that she just wants the attention, but it
Mhm.
also could be that she wants
Yep.
to be seen and heard. It could be both.
Yeah. It's true.
So we see lots of 1, 2, 3 action on the running.
Uh-huh.
Okay, run to the camera. Sherri, look at this camera. Sherri, can you look at this
Mhm.
camera? And she's just standing and looking and she's crying. And they keep, "Sherri, can you look at this camera?" And she like won't do it. And then finally she just looks up and says, "I don't want to do this part."
Mhm.
And then
Okay.
she and they
I
see
know those things.
the car going back and forth behind her, and
I
she goes,
know.
"I just don't remember getting in the car. I'm not gonna remember, and I don't wanna do it."
Okay.
So Dr. Diggs says, if she's a liar, why doesn't she just make up a story about getting in the car? If she's such a liar, she could have just also made up a lie about getting in the car. She can't do it. She is telling the truth. She can't come up with a memory. She could just lie, and she's not. She is being honest.
No, I think she is lying when she says she doesn't remember getting into the car.
Right, and she knows how she got
She's
in. Was she forced? Did she
yeah,
do it of her own volition? Right.
yeah, because she knows they're going to dissect it and figure out the truth. So, of course, relying on the trauma of the whole situation, your childhood trauma, as a reason why you cannot remember this one part she cannot remember, but every single other detail
Yeah,
she does,
so
but
many
not
details.
this part. So too many details, but she doesn't remember this part.
So Dr. Dervasala says, our first duty as psychologists is to believe. Our first duty is to believe. A
Mhm,
patient is sitting in front of us, we believe them. Our duty is not to be detectives. So we
mhm,
go on what the patient is telling us and we believe.
mhm,
So at the end of this episode, they ask her, "Will you do a polygraph?" And
mhm.
it's like, dun, 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 will she do it?
Yeah.
Okay, part 4, it's complicated. Oh, it's complicated, all right.
Oh, yeah. It's an
So
understatement.
so we see her at home, and now I guess I'm thinking this is her parents' house, okay?
Are you thinking the green room
With
is the parents' house?
the crafting room.
Is that her parents' house? Got
I
you.
think
Okay.
so, because if she's living with a buddy, they wouldn't be like, "Here's 3 extra rooms to make a crafting room," you
Mhm,
know? "Here's
mhm,
your 1 bedroom." So, she shows her crafting room, which is her she goes, "Here's my office." I was like, Girl,
mhm.
what is your job?"
No, hold on. So she did live with her parents, but this house, they were no longer living in that house, her friend. And they were like, hey, we're not here. You come and stay here, get yourself together. So maybe she did have
Oh, because
access
it
to all
was
those
like a
rooms.
huge kitchen that she was
Right.
like, I was like, what's this nice house? Okay, that's her
Mm-hmm.
friend's house. Okay, so she shows this is my crafting room, my
Mm-hmm.
office. She's showing how she loves to craft, and she goes, normally I like to get all my crafts and Christmas presents done in October because I make a lot of homemade Christmas gifts.
Mm-hmm.
So I know when I was talking to James, it was in October because that's when she got
Mm-hmm.
kidnapped. Remember, she came home 22 days. It was Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. It was Thanksgiving. Yes.
And she goes, so I know that's when I was making it, when I was talking to him and I was telling him about this. And she pulls out one of her boxes and it's coasters. She said, my dad would cut these coasters, we would sand them down, and then she would burn on them for
Mm-hmm.
particular people for gifts.
Mm-hmm.
So she knows that this is
Mm-hmm.
what he did to her, wood
Mm-hmm.
burning, and he doesn't really do it anymore because we remember the story that James told was she sent him to Michael's to get these
Mm-hmm.
letters that you do for wood burning. And she said,
Mm-hmm.
I remember when he branded me because you have to do each letter one by one. You've got to
Mm-hmm.
screw the letter on, heat it,
Mm-hmm.
then brandy, wait for it to cool, screw the letter off, get a new letter on, heat it, brand it, wait for it to cool, screw it off. And they're showing it dramatically. So it would be all those letters plus the numbers. And she goes, so it
But
took him,
she chooses to have that in her house now.
she says it took him a long time to do it. She says, I don't really do the wood crafting anymore because that would be weird, right?
But did she have it in that house?
Yeah, she was showing it to us,
Yeah.
showing
Why
us what
would
it
you
looked
have
like.
that? Why would you have that? Like,
It's been 5 years. It seems like she would have thrown those crafts away,
you think so? You would think.
or
Yeah.
these are all new crafting boxes. And
Mm-hmm.
so she had to purchase those.
Mm-hmm.
So she says, yeah, and the brand that it was done on me, it wasn't like one big piece. It
Right.
was letter by letter. And they're like, wow. So she explains how it had to go letter by letter.
Mm-hmm.
And then she lifts up her shirt and shows the brand is still there. And she goes, I don't understand the brand. It says Exodus with the numbers. I don't know what it means. And then, but she talks about, I can remember the pain of it.
Mm-hmm.
So they ask her, let's talk about the 22 days you spent with James. And she goes, I just remember waking up briefly in the back of the vehicle and not being able to keep my eyes open because it was dark. So she was drugged
Mm-hmm.
in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, and then I woke up in that room with the boards on the windows.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, who put the boards there? And she says,
Mm-hmm.
he did. Of course, he says
Oh,
she asked to have the boards put
uh-huh.
there. And I tried to pull the boards off. And when I did that, it was the first time he came in and hit me in the face. So that's the bruise you saw on my face that was faded.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then after that, he put a chain around my waist with another chain on it and chained me to this pillar in the closet. And she says, I described everything in that room and the coffee table, everything exactly as it was. All of
Mm-hmm.
that was true, all of that was true.
Yeah.
And again, she's saying, like, I was trying to lead them, give them these clues. Well, who could just go by these descriptions, be like, oh, that must be an apartment 6 hours away? I mean,
Yeah. That's not how it works at all.
yeah.
But good
So
try.
she says, I drew it accurately for the cops, everything. And we saw that on the first documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he was doing this to keep me safe from Keith because I'd indicated I was in this bad marriage. So he was keeping me there to keep me safe from Keith.
So keeping her there,
Chained.
why wouldn't he just take her to his house? It's not like Keith knows where he lives.
That was his apartment. That was
Oh, it
James's
was his
apartment.
apartment?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
But he just did all this extra stuff.
Yeah.
For what reason?
To keep her
She's
safe from
chained
Keith.
to a wall.
Uh-huh. So she can't leave.
So it's not like she can't leave. She can't open the curtains.
Yeah.
Can she not scream? Can she not bang on the walls?
I don't know.
There's so many.
Yeah.
Why am I sitting here questioning a lie? When I know, to me, all the answers go right back to the same thing because it's a lie.
So now we meet Brett Bartlett. Brett Bartlett has 20 years experience as a polygraph examiner. And she goes, yeah, I'll do the polygraph. I'm not worried about it. So we see her doing the polygraph. And now we go back to listening to the James interview from 4 years earlier when he says,
Mhm.
basically, I had a friend who asked me for help.
Mhm.
No, I don't have any drugs. I have nothing. I have no narcos, is what he sounds like.
Right.
Narcos.
Narcos. I know.
He said, I don't know. I don't know how to get it. I don't have anything like that. So the producer is saying, it sounds like the detective is leading James in these questions.
Mhm.
And Denise, the FBI agent that we love,
Right.
says, that wasn't the way I would do it. It's not the way I would have talked to James,
Mhm.
but it's not the wrong way to do it.
Right.
It's, and I'm going to say this clear. It's okay for the FBI. It is admissible for us to lie to people to get the
Right.
information we want. And they said, but the people can't lie to the FBI. He goes, right,
Yeah.
but you can't lie to us.
Right.
And that's a lot of times in cases that we see, and watch a lot of Dateline. A lot of
Yeah.
time, depending on the police department or what they are, it is either okay or not for them to just fully lie.
Full like lie.
They
Yeah.
can put a picture in front of you and say, this person is dead,
Right.
and the person's not dead. And to
Mhm.
see the reaction to be the people like, what? No,
Right.
when I left them, they were
Yeah.
alive, Yeah.
Yeah. We've seen it happen
Yeah.
so many times. It's
And
just it's a tactic. Yeah.
different jurisdictions can do different things. And she says
Mhm.
it is okay for the FBI to lie, but people can't lie to us.
Right.
So, we hear more of this interview where James is saying, she wanted me to board up the room. She wanted
Mhm.
me to do this. She wanted these things to happen. And you guys in the Hulu documentary, there's a lot more details of him saying, she asked me to do this. She hurled herself against the coffee table to make this specific bruise, all that stuff. So she says, I know I was drugged. Like the first time he brought me a meal, like I know I was drugged. I could feel I've never even been drunk. So I know that I felt very weird. And I was he was telling me if I wanted to go to the bathroom, if I wanted to eat anything, I had to earn it. And I had
Right.
to earn it by getting him off. And the way he got
Mhm.
off was with my pain.
Mhm.
And I wanted to be sure whenever he ejaculated, it was outside of me so I would not get pregnant.
Okay. So
So she's
okay.
trying to say he just sat in the corner and whacked off. Why? Because she was in pain. She's not saying they had intercourse.
Mhm.
She's not admitting they had intercourse, consensual
Mhm.
or not. Okay.
Mhm.
Whatever. She's not saying they had intercourse at all. She's making it sound like he only ejaculated separate from her because she was in pain.
Mhm.
Um, Okay.
Mhm.
I don't wanna get
Yeah.
into this too deep because
Oh, I know. That
it's
you see I'm being quiet.
it's like okay. So the producers now ask the parents, "Do you think today that you know for sure what happened to Sherri?"
Right. Mhm.
Dad looks right at the camera and goes, "You have to ask Sherri." And the mom says, "All we know is she was very unhappy in her marriage to Keith, and when James showed up and she went with him, it
Mhm.
wasn't a kidnapping.
Mhm.
She wanted a little bit of happiness in her life. She
Mhm.
wanted to get away from Keith, but
Mhm.
she didn't abandon her children. She was coming back. But no, it was not a kidnapping."
So there you have it right there. This is coming straight from her. And here's the thing, Mary Payne, I would kill for my child. I would lie for my child. These people are not doing this. These people are over her bullshit. It was not a kidnapping. She went to have moments of happiness. Moments of happiness do not include being chained up to a wall, beaten, starved to death. Like they're telling us right now, these things did not happen. We know they did not happen.
This was crazy.
It was, and
They could have
I was shocked
the whole documentary could have ended right here.
right there because this is the truth. If your own parents don't believe you, your
Yep.
own parents are not even willing to lie for you anymore.
Yep.
They're done. They're completely done. They have found out the truth, and they're not going along with. Now the other episodes of it, they were lying, but at
That's
some
what I don't
point they're just
understand.
like,
The other
mm-hmm,
episodes, they're like, she did have this childhood trauma. These terrible things
mm-hmm,
happened. Her husband was very
mm-hmm,
controlling.
mm-hmm.
So Suzanne says, the sister-in-law says, I think that day she thought she and James were going on a date.
Mm-hmm.
So Suzanne is
Yep.
also saying she got in the
Mm-hmm.
car with him willingly.
By
She thought they were
herself.
going on a date. She
Yep.
wasn't kidnapped into the car. She
Mm-hmm.
did, in fact, drop that eye thing to make it look like
On
somebody
purpose.
kidnapped.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Suzanne, her best friend, her biggest
Mm-hmm.
cheerleader,
Yep.
says, I think that day she thought she and James were going on a date.
Yep.
But she believes that James then held her against her will because she goes, but James never had consequences for his actions
Right.
because they can't prove that he
Because
did. He can't prove
they
he did
can't prove.
anything.
Not one thing can they prove. This man has not been arrested for anything.
Anything.
I mean,
so Suzanne is sort of saying,
mm-hmm.
So Dr. Diggs says, I think maybe her expectation was just to go with him and have sex in a hotel room, but it went wrong. Dr. Diggs is
Again,
also saying she wasn't forcibly
nope.
kidnapped.
Nope.
3 people now
Mm-mm.
have said it.
Mm-hmm. 3 very close people
Close.
to her, your parents, your sister-in-law, who's like your sister, and now your psychologist,
Who also
are
thinks
basically all saying the same thing.
psychologists think she's great. He loves her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he says, and if all of this is not the truth, maybe it's a defense mechanism she invented herself. So just someone admitting to themselves that they got themselves in this situation, they blame themselves, so they create a story so they don't have to face what they did. So all 3 of them are saying, yes, she willingly went with him, and it's too hard for her to face that she created this whole hullabaloo.
Lie. Yeah.
But yes, 3 people now have said she willingly went with him.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The doctor says you have to face your shame. Shame is very hard. You have to face your shame, and shame is the origin of a lot of lies. Great point.
Yep.
All right. So we go over the polygraph with the Brett, the polygraph guy. He says, I want to tell you, this is very overly dramatic. He says,
Yes,
I want to tell you, you passed 3 questions.
Yeah.
Were you free to leave? You said no. I found that truthful. Were you free to leave without fear of violence? You said no. I found that truthful. Did you ask James to brand you? You said no. And I believe you. All 3 of those things that she did not feel that she was free to leave. She felt that if she did leave, there would be violence, and that she asked James to brand her. All of those he found her truthful on. Okay. But he says, there's a next set of questions that are inconclusive that will require more testing that we don't see further testing. Did you plan to travel to Southern California with James on November 2nd?
Right.
She said no, but her body said otherwise. And she says, I remember telling him at some point, yes, I'll go with you to Southern California, like leading him on, like telling him we'll have this great life. But no, not on November 2nd. Not on that day.
It was November 1st.
He was a day late.
Yes.
Unresolved questions. Did you arrange for James to pick you up while you were on your run? Do you remember getting in his car? Did you enter the vehicle voluntarily? So, again, her parents, her best friend / sister, and her therapist all say they believe she went with him voluntarily. And maybe what this is saying, that she didn't account for what happened next.
Right.
Okay. He says, we need to do further testing. We never see any further testing.
Right.
So the producer says, okay, so in the polygraph, it's alluding to the fact that you led him on and made him believe that you guys would be together, but that's not what you said to us.
Right.
And she goes, well, there's a lot of shame that I have wrapped up into all of this is my fault, which is just exactly what the therapist said.
What he said.
It's word for word. So she got that from her therapist. She says, there was never a plan for a hoax kidnapping. But yeah, I did say at some point being in Southern California would be cool. And she goes, okay, so let's just say, even if this was the plan, that she would go with him, even if this was the plan, the second I said I wanted to go home, I should have been able to go home.
So now
I
there was a plan. Potentially.
I think she got there and
Mhm.
she's like, "Fuck, this is like now national news."
I know.
Like, I just thought it would be like my husband would be
Mhm.
worried for a few days and I get to go back.
Yep. Right. She didn't think it
So
was gonna get all of this attention.
I think once she got there and realized, "Oh crap, I can't just leave for a few days like I thought,"
Right.
she put this
Mhm.
plan into motion to be like, "Okay, now I gotta come up with who kidnapped, we've got to brand me, I gotta get
Right.
these bruises, whatever." He's like, "Okay, fucking crazy pants.
Okay.
I thought we were just gonna bang for a couple of days."
Yeah, I mean, he went along with it because she could. Here's the thing: she could not have done those things to herself. She couldn't. Someone
She
else had
cannot
to do it to her.
brand herself
Brand
upside
herself.
down
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
letters be
So
perfectly lined up.
no, not at
No.
all. So most definitely, he did help do all of these things.
Things. Right.
Right.
So then they say James passed every polygraph question at the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we see the FBI footage of them telling her that when she's in the room with Keith when they
Mm-hmm.
first told her, "We know what you did." And they're like, "What really happened?" He passed every polygraph
Mm-hmm.
question. He says, "All of this was your idea." And she's going, "There's no way. There's no way. There's no way." And she says, "I never changed my story." And so they said she never changed her story the whole time. She says James did all this to her. She didn't do it to herself. And these are all the counts of lying to the FBI that she
Mm-hmm.
agreed that she was lying to the FBI and took the plea bargain
Yeah.
on.
Yep.
So the producer says, "How did you and James pass the same question on a polygraph with different answers?" And she goes, "Because he's a sociopath."
Girl.
She goes, "Did anybody do a psych eval on him?" "I have. They've done psych evals on me, hundreds. So you know all my stuff. Did he have a psych evaluation? He's a sociopath." That's how he's able to answer.
He has no history of any other psychological things, lying, abuse, being a victim, being an abuser, nothing like that. Now, saying that does not mean that a person who is an abuser has to
Is
have been an abuser all their life.
right, and that also doesn't
But
mean
in
they've just
this,
never been caught, right?
yes, but in this case, you know that they have studied everything that has happened in this man's life. They have talked to ex-girlfriends, friends, employers, all these people, and nothing adds up to, yes, this person is a sociopath. This person is a pathological liar. Like, this person is a known abuser. Nothing like that, because it didn't happen. She did all this.
So the other FBI agents, what's his name? The guy, the crusty guy,
Agent French.
Peter. Yeah, he says,
Agent Crust.
yeah, he says she could have changed and told the truth at any time, and she
Mm-hmm.
never did. And
Right.
the producer says, "Is she the girl who cried wolf? And this is
Mm-hmm.
all true." And he
Mm-hmm.
goes, "If she's the girl that cried wolf, she's going to need paw prints." I mean, he went into a whole thing about wolf. It was funny.
Yeah.
He goes, "The problems are based on her own track record." So that's right. She is,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
that's the rub here. It's like, if she is now telling the truth, which it just doesn't seem like she is, but if she
Right.
is, it's so hard to believe her because she's such a
Yeah.
manipulative liar.
Yep.
So the producer says, "Whose idea was it for it to be two Hispanic women?" And she goes,
Mhm.
"Oh, that was my idea." And she goes, "Because when I got out, um, when I got out, we had dinner. Oh, we had dinner when she was behaving and she was able to
Mhm.
have dinner with James. And we had dinner and she goes, 'My husband's going to find me. He's never going to give up. He's got the FBI involved. He's going to find
Mhm.
me.' And so James and I came up with this plan of the two Hispanic women." And she
Mhm.
goes, "I wish I just would have told him from day one it was James. I wish I just would have done it, but I didn't. It feels awful. It still feels awful that I lied. I wasn't thinking about all these people looking for me, but the people from the church, the people from I wasn't thinking. I was only thinking of myself. And I participated in a cover up, but I just wanted to go home. And I just thought he would let me go home."
Mhm.
So the producers asked Polygraph Guy, "What do you think justice is in this case?" And he goes, "Well, the community deserves justice for what they went through trying to
Right.
find her. because she
Mm-hmm.
did lie. But she is still a victim at the end of the day. She's just not truthful. So it's hard to say what justice is. So this is when she says to the crew and the production, she goes, "How truthful are you?" I mean, I've seen all of you lie. Like everybody. Have you never lied?
Yeah, we humans are liars, but we don't lie about being kidnapped and abused and tied up. Just no, I didn't eat that extra French fry. We lie like that.
But isn't this interesting that it's so similar to like Jack's on the Valley, where no
Mm-hmm.
matter what you say to him, hey, you threw
Yep.
a coffee table and physically abused your wife, he'd go, what would you do? I mean, everybody would do the same thing. You
No,
know,
we would not.
it's
That shit's
just
not normal.
it's I lied. I lied.
Yeah.
It's human nature to lie, and I did it. But she's looking at
Yeah.
every person in that room that she's been
Mm-hmm.
working with for months and goes, "You're a
Right.
liar. You're a liar. I've seen you lie."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Weird.
It's very weird.
And they say, "Okay, so can you just remind us about James's mother?"
Mm-hmm.
And you guys came up with the two Hispanic women based on his mother.
Right.
So James is in this conversation. Let's do two Hispanic women.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier, she told it. They based on James's mother. She thought that's how they would, those were the breadcrumbs. So they
Right.
said, "Do you remember all that?" She goes, "Yeah, right." So James and I came up with that plan. They go, and the woman was Hispanic. Yeah. And they said, "So we have met James's mother. She's
Mm-hmm.
Irish."
Yeah. That's far from Mexico.
And she goes, "I don't know. I only met her once. I don't know. But if you and James
But
came up with the
you
plan together, he would know his mother's not Hispanic.
Hispanic.
He would know his mother
Yeah.
is Irish."
Irish. Man.
So she fucked up by saying James helped her come up with that plan
Yes, she did.
because
Yep.
James is not going to come up with the plan that his mother is
To
Hispanic
incriminate his mother
to
in
incriminate his
some kind of
mother.
way. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So she goes, "Whatever, I only met her once." So she's like, "Just forget." So that didn't help
Like
her
this is
either.
no big deal. Like it's a no big deal. Why are we focusing on what race she was? Bitch, because you focused on the race that she was.
Over
You
and
have
over and
people
over.
believing that two Hispanic women kidnapped you. Do you know how bad that looks? You know what I mean?
Yes, yes, yes. It's
But
awful.
she doesn't care. She doesn't care.
So they go, "Okay, our PI also went to Arizona to meet with James." So we sort of see the footage of that. And James is like,
Mm-hmm.
"No, I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm here taking care
Yeah.
of my elderly dad. Just, I'm glad to know that something else is coming out. I'll get in touch with my lawyer in California.
Yeah.
Thanks for alerting me."
At this point, that's the same response that I would have given them. Like,
He
I've
says,
had enough.
she's coming out with a book and making allegations. And he goes, "Okay, I
Mm-hmm.
don't care." He goes, "Great.
Yeah.
I have a lawyer for this. Thanks for alerting me that she's writing a book."
Mm-hmm.
So he says, "I have nothing, contact my lawyer." So the producer says to Sherri, "He says one thing and you say another. So who do we believe?" And she goes, "My only hope is the person who held me captive will admit his crime, which is unlikely." And she goes, "I'm at rock bottom. Like, there's no more. I can't get lower. Like, what the fuck am I going to do?" And then they just sit there and the camera's on her for more than a second. And she looks right at the camera and goes, "Do you think this film is going to do more harm than good?"
That did not help her. If that didn't tell you that this bitch is a fucking liar, I don't know what else could.
She's just looking out for, is this
First,
film going to
yeah,
make me look
make
better?
me look
Well,
good. Uh-huh. Yeah.
all right. So we get the black screen of death. And Sherri continues to fight in family court for custody of her children. When reached for comment, Keith's lawyer said any allegations of severe abuse, manipulation, and lying are false and disproven by a mountain of documentary evidence and objective, indisputable facts.
Mm-hmm.
James denies kidnapping and sexually assaulting Sherri. He maintains that any harm he inflicted on her was done at her direction. He has
Mm-hmm.
not been charged with any crime in
Any.
connection
Any.
with Sherri's disappearance.
Nope.
Um, the polygraph was legally done the way that they're normally done, blah, blah, blah about the polygraph. Okay.
Right.
That's the end. Now, Keisha,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
at the beginning of this, I said I still wasn't sure, but
Uh-huh.
as I
Now
read
that
it
we've talked it
through,
out. Yeah.
we've talked it
Mm-hmm.
out. Now I agree with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. I have to tell you that the thing that is so disheartening about this is that She got so much national attention for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have a severe case of so many girls, and particularly Black girls, brown girls, women of color that
Yeah.
get not even a fraction of local news, their own local news.
You're
Like
right.
people don't even realize that they are missing.
You're right.
And all of these resources were used for this woman who
Right.
is a absolute liar. That is
Yep.
the saddest thing to me,
Mhm.
because I feel like any person that is missing should get this kind of attention.
I agree
But,
with
you
you.
know, and it was wasted on her, and she could give zero fucks about that. She don't care. She don't care at all. She cares that she has to pay the money back.
Right, and how is she paying the money back? By, like, appearances, like doing this, or, like, she's
Probably
writing a
so.
book, or
Yeah.
interviews
Yeah.
that people are paying her for? That'd be the only way. She's not getting it from her crafting.
I mean, I would hope that any book that she puts out there, no one would buy it. I know
Or it'd have
people
to be
will
all the proceeds go
go to
the restitution. Yeah.
missing or something like that. You know, that is, and I feel sorry for her kids. I really do. I feel sorry for her parents, but this bitch doesn't care about anyone but herself. That is it. I don't know her as a mother other than, you know, she wanted everything to appear to be perfect.
Right.
So I'm kind of wondering what kind of mom was she really, you know?
So if you've got her sister-in-law, Suzanne, saying, "I think she just thought she was going to a hotel room to have sex with him." Okay, so that's not being a bad mother. That has nothing to do with her kids. Her kids were at school.
Yeah.
The psychologist says, "I think she just thought she needed." No, her parents say, "I thought she just thought she was gonna get away from Keith and have an escape." Well, that is being a bad parent because you just left your children.
You left your children, and not you didn't just leave your kids, but your kids have no idea if you're coming back, when you're coming back. You
Right.
didn't say, "Hey, I'm going on to a spa for a few days."
Right.
Okay, mom, we know you're coming back on Sunday. These kids are thinking in their heads, our mom is never going to come back home.
Yeah. Okay, so it's
So what kind of trauma has she done to them?
So Suzanne is the one that says, "I think she thought that day she and James were going on a date." And the doctor says maybe her expectation was just to meet up with him and have sex in a hotel room. But her parents say she fully was planning to just go and have a rendezvous with him for a few days and come back to escape her
Yeah.
marriage. So
Yeah. That's not being it's not being going away from your kids. It's not being a bad parent. Parents need breaks, parents need vacations, but you always tell your kid, I'm going to call you. You can call mommy. Mommy will be back here at this day. Mommy's going to bring you something back from my vacation. Not just, we don't know why our mom is gone, where she's gone, how long she's going to be gone. Then these kids are probably hearing all these adults talking.
dad's
About
crying.
your mom being kidnapped. Yeah. Your kids in school are saying things because it's national news. Like, she didn't care about that.
Well, I changed my mind since the beginning because we talked it through and I'd read all my own notes and I was like, I forgot at the end that 3 people in a row were like, "Oh, yeah, she went with him willingly." But I do think what happened was she went with him willingly, and after a day, she was like, "Oh, shit.
I fucked up.
We're gonna have
Yeah.
to come up with something here."
I
Yeah.
agree.
And he was just
Yep.
like, "This lady is, like, throwing herself on the coffee table. I don't know what the fuck she's doing."
And you know what?
Didn't she have him, like, throw something at her to make a certain mark on her
I
leg?
think so. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember from that other
But
documentary. Yeah.
and here's the thing, James, you are innocent, but you are not innocent of being fucking stupid, because he should have never, when it got crazy, he should have said, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm
I'm not
doing
gonna go
this.
to Michael's. And I
Yeah.
really feel like they had evidence of him going to Michael's and buying the stuff.
I think they did say that they had evidence of that. So he didn't do it prior to.
Right. He wasn't like, "Ooh, once I get her, Exodus 3:15, which talks about frogs, that'll make all the sense in the world." Yeah.
And here's the thing, your average guy doesn't just say, I'm going to go to Michael's because. Usually when you see a guy at Michael's or a Hobby Lobby, they have been tasked with, I need you to go pick this up for me, which is
Right.
the case with this as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he's a dummy for doing this, you know.
Mhm. He looked cute in the pictures, which was like,
He looked
have
totally normal.
have faith
Like,
in yourself, James. Well,
I'm not-
now I need the 3rd documentary, which is James's story. That's what we need. We need third documentary with Sherri Papini, Caught in a Lie, part 5, James's version.
James's version of it.
Like-
I don't
like-
think James is going to do it.
Like everything, like Taylor Swift, all the song, Taylor's version. So we need James's version is what we need. No, I think if we want to know more about what James says, we go back to the first documentary because he was just, his voice is featured a lot of him telling
Mhm.
what it was. Oh my God. Well, Keisha, I'm very glad that we covered this.
I am too.
I'm
Yeah,
very
it's
glad.
very interesting. Yeah.
You guys, Keisha has a podcast and it's called The Libra Lounge with Keisha. And now they're doing
Mhm.
Questions with Keisha, a second episode where they're taking
Yeah.
questions. Where do people
Questions.
email their questions and advice for you?
You can email me at libraloungeradio@gmail.com. And boy, did I get a question today. I'm like, oh God.
Ooh.
What a doozy. How
Okay.
are we going to figure this one out?
Okay, good.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So when does your regular feed come out? And then when does the questions one come out?
Now, we don't have certain days.
Okay. Sorry. I was just trying to help you out. You'll just get
I
it when
make
you get
a
it.
post. I
Yeah.
make a post saying, hey, a new episode is out. So,
Okay.
yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, you guys, Keisha's very funny, so I can't imagine what her advice for some of these people are. And you've got a lot of like crazy life experience that you can apply as well.
Do.
Yeah.
That is indeed true. Yeah.
Mm. You can follow me on Instagram at Pink Shade Pod. That's where you're going to find out about the scheduling stuff that's coming up. Monday and Tuesdays being flipped of next week. Monday, 90 Day Fiance. Tuesday will be the Virgins with Keisha. Once Love After Lockup comes back, we'll flip back to our regular programming, but they do it to us every summer. And we just have to ride this wave because they didn't give us any other prison shows. Damn it.
But we got Mama June.
Well, good for you and Mama June and your 1,000-pound sisters and roommates. Good for you. Because that's what Keisha likes to talk about on her show. You guys like those shows? Keisha's podcast is the place
They are so
to
funny.
go. Oh, Mama
Those
June.
shows are funny.
Mama
Gotta
June.
love her. Gotta love to hate her.
Mama June would fake her own kidnapping.
In a heartbeat.
People would really send her right back. They just throw her off on the side of the road. Like, we are
Yeah.
not participating.
We can't deal with this bitch at all. Like, she talks way too much. Like, look, gotta go. I'd rather spend time in jail.
All right, everybody. We will see you on Wednesday. Keisha and I cover the Valley on Pink Shade Prime on Wednesday. So we will see you then. You will see me tomorrow with Kimberly talking 90 Day Fiance. And on the weekend, Amy and I are covering Hunt for Love. And this Thursday, we will have Pat and Ruby from Bad TV talking about Bravo News and Love Hotel, etc. Okay, bye.
Bye.